Since we were discussing recently the it was 7 categories, I decided I'm not willing to declutter in my home. So I decided to follow that up with 7 items I regretted giving up. And one of the biggest challenges that we face is we remember getting rid of things that we regretted getting rid of and we wish we would have kept. Oh, hey, you like my headband? Funny you should mention that, because one of the first things on my list that I regretted decluttering are, well, I never really decluttered my entire headband collection, but I got rid of an awful lot. And there's certain ones that I still occasionally find myself looking for when I'm getting ready in the morning. And then I went, oh, that was probably one I got rid of, and I wish I had it. It's unfortunate at the end of the day. Does it ruin my quality of life? No. Are there other headbands out there? I mean, yeah. To me, they're not the same. And like, there's this whole trend of like the big padded headbands, and especially like the ones with the little knot, and they are adorable on other people. I can't stand them on myself personally. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my face shape, but I wish I had some of those headbands back. At least I didn't declutter this one. The second item on my list is, well, one that I think we actually talked about recently. And that's a tan shirt that when I was going through my closet one day randomly, after making so much progress on a spare bedroom, I was inspired to just go through my closet and quick fire just get rid of shirts I wasn't wearing. And I'm like, I know these are short sleeve shirts, but I really don't reach for them. And there was one that for some reason, like, I kind of was like, I think I wear this, but was I just wearing it to wear it? And then, so I got rid of it. And then I forgot that I got rid of it and had to check the footage. Sure enough, the donation box, that shirt was in the pile, and I'm sure I have something in my closet that will work just fine, but I do kind of regret decluttering it. But at least hopefully it is going to good use, and someone who needs it more than I do is getting some use out of that shirt. It's okay to let it go, and it was probably really only $8 on Old Navy anyway. Another item I completely regret getting rid of, I was getting sucked into like the height of minimalism. And so I'd who says bought? Anyway, I bought a new upgraded digital scale, and it did your body fat percentage based on your height that you could put in. And I think it was also like your gender, your age, all of these really cool things. It really only lasted 4 years. I mean, that's a decent amount of time that even changing batteries, it just decided one day it wasn't going to turn back on. And it was kind of expensive, even with a coupon. And of course, it was an influencer coupon, which is exactly why we don't trust influencers as much anymore. So I really regret getting rid of my old analog like dial scale, because even when that one died, I bought another digital scale, and it's finicky, and I don't know how many times I have to like wake it up, zero it out, and step on it, and then it doesn't give me a weight, and then I step off it, and then I have to start all over again, and it's just very fussy and finicky. So I really wish I just would have kept my original scale instead of getting sucked into the fancy digital scale and then thinking I needed another digital scale when that one bit the dust. So this is one of those items that has made me a little bit more thoughtful about my purchases and thinking about whether I really need to upgrade something or if I'm perfectly fine just making do with what I already have on hand. All right, before we keep moving on in this list of things that I regret decluttering, I'd like to hear from you. What have you regretted decluttering? And while you're down there, don't forget to go ahead and hit that like button, because it helps me more than you ever know. And you know what? It's free. It's totally free. You don't even have to worry if you ever declutter it or if you have to replace it. Once you put that thumbs up there, it is there for good, and I'm going to receive it, and it's going to be the best gift ever, and I am never decluttering your like. And of course, you could subscribe too. Another item I tossed when I was going to be a minimalist, gosh darn it, and I was sick of all of the extra cords I was keeping. And there was one in particular that it was definitely older. It had like, the younger crowd isn't going to remember this, but if you're north of 40, you probably remember like where it's got the white, the red, and the yellow little like auxiliary ports, and you have to do all three and match them up in your TV or one of those like converter boxes just so, or like it's just not going to work. And so I came across one of those, and then I came across a second one of those, and one of them had a funny little end on it. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what it went to. And, you know, it was when I was like unpacking and moving and I was busy. So I wasn't into all of the leisure things that I typically would partake in. I couldn't figure it out, and I went, well, I have this other perfectly good AV cord with all 3 colors on one end and all 3 colors on the other end. And so if I can't figure out where this other one belongs, where it's got all 3 colors on one end and this really random, like, kind of connector thingy on the other end, that means it probably doesn't go to anything that I own anymore. So I decided to get rid of it. And then one day after I was done unpacking, I was going to treat myself with a few rounds of Mario Kart on my Super Nintendo. I bet you can see where this is going. And so I go to set it up, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I went to where, okay, I've got this bin of cords, and I made on purpose this whole bin of cords, and I went to that bin of cords, and I found the AV cord with all 3 colors on this end, and all 3 AV colors on this other end. And then it occurred to me, that's the one with the little gray connector that I couldn't figure it out. That went to the Super Nintendo. And I'm kind of surprised because like Nintendo is really good at stamping their branding on everything. Either like they didn't do that on this particular cord, or I just couldn't read that day, which also sometimes happens. The good news is we live in well, now it's 2024, but back then it was 2021, and as much as like it pained me to get an aftermarket AV connector for my Super Nintendo, because like this is the original one from the early 90s. We got it for a Christmas morning, my brother and I together. It was like our big present that year. And so it pained me a little bit to get that aftermarket cord and not have something original to the system. A year later, the power cord also went out, so I had to replace that anyway after a power surge when I was at work. But at the end of the day, it still works. It's still super fun to play Mario Kart and beat the pants off anyone who comes over and dares to challenge me at a game of Mario Kart. Oh man, speaking of 2021. So the next item I decluttered was kind of a casualty of the pandemic. That was my Magic Bullet blender, because I went, well, if I haven't used it in this long, and I don't know the next time I'm going to use it in this long, and I really couldn't remember the last time I used it, and then I remembered it was actually something I used to use all the time for certain recipes that I like to bring to gatherings, which, you know, we still kind of weren't doing in 2021. It kind of killed me because at the time that I had purchased it, if you know, and you are also a fan of infomercials, when those Magic Bullet blenders came out with the whole kit, it was not cheap. Like, yeah, you could get some deals, and eventually it went into Bed Bath & Beyond, and maybe you could use your 20% off coupon on it. It was still, with the coupon, I think I still spent like 50 or 60 bucks on that little sucker. And yeah, I could replace it for, I paid $15 or $17 for something that does, you know, the similar things from Aldi just to replace it when I went, oh yeah, I actually needed that and I didn't have another way to mix up like a specific dressing for a recipe. So yes, it was easy to replace, but there was nothing wrong with the other one. So it was just another unfortunate casualty of my mission to become, well, I thought I wanted to become a minimalist, but it turns out I just enjoy a modest and manageable lifestyle instead, and it's okay to keep these things once in a while. Okay, this next item, I'm really gonna try so hard not to get emotional like I did in the video when we were talking about fuzzy blankets, because this is a very specific fuzzy blanket, and it had polka dots on it, and Gypsy just loved this stinking blanket. And it came in a set where you got a plain green fuzzy blanket and like a Christmassy pillow, which I think that was the first thing that got decluttered even before I moved into this house, because I don't know, I just didn't like it as much as, you know, the actual blankets. But then you got this coordinating polka dot blanket, and I don't know why she very much preferred the polka dot blanket. It was her favorite. Like, even if it was in the wash, you could just tell she was not happy with just having to settle for the plain green one. I don't know if I accidentally put it in a donation bag or a trash bag. I legitimately searched high and low in the apartment, and then I went, well, surely it's going to turn up moving. And so if it turned up while I was packing and, kind of paring things down before the move, I don't remember seeing it. And it's extremely possible that I put it into a box or a bag that I did not mean to put it into. And so I went, well, when I unpack, I'm going through absolutely everything, mostly because I had heard about minimalism. And so I was all on board, and I was going pedal to the metal, all about minimalism. So I went through everything. And to this day, 3-4 years later, I still cannot find that polka dot blanket. And so Gypsy had selected another, new favorite fuzzy blanket. And that's the one that, she is resting eternally with. But I really wish I would have been able to have that polka dot blanket to just have it with her one last time. I said I wasn't going to cry on that one. I almost made it through that time. So close. On a lighter note, the 7th thing that I wish I would have never gotten rid of, well, it really did need to be decluttered, but I wish I hadn't decluttered it before I got some information off of it, and that was my absolute number one. I know this is overused in the beauty space, but my holy grail perfection lipstick shade, it was this perfect raspberry, not quite metallic, shimmery, I always got compliments you look great, just the absolute perfect berry goodness lipstick shade. And so, I had that in high school, so obviously at a certain point, I had to let it go. But when I went to the aisles of Revlon and all the drugstores, Walmart, you name it, to this day, I try to find something super similar, and I have one that is incredibly similar, but deep down, I know it's not the same. And I don't know if it's just they discontinued it, or if it just doesn't quite look the same. And trust me, I know it's ridiculous that 26 years later, I still keep an eye out for a lipstick that is just that right shade. So I don't regret getting rid of an old grubby lipstick that was all germy and probably sweating and breaking apart and everything. But I just wish I would have taken the time to jot down the name and go look for it right then and there. Well, that wraps up the things that I regret decluttering and getting rid of. And so if you haven't taken the time already, I'd like to hear from you. What did you regret getting rid of before? And do these things still hold you back whenever you're paralyzed with a decision of, do I declutter this? Am I going to regret it? How much is it going to cost me to replace this? And I don't want to be wasteful. So, and I know these are all the same things going on in all of our minds when we hesitate of whether or not we should get rid of something that we're on the fence on and that still seem really useful to us. I don't know if it's about the money. I do kind of agree with Dawn of, if you gave yourself a set budget every single year of, this is the money I get to use to replace items that, oops, I accidentally forgot. The things I got rid of that I didn't need in my life anymore and that were causing me hassle do far outweigh replacing the items that were replaceable. It's the items that we had a special attachment to that are really the ones that bother us the most. And I know it's so hard to remove these attachments to our clutter or specific items. And so with that, I'm going to give you permission to have a larger memory bin if that's something that you like to have as a memory bin, or tote or something. Maybe you want a second memory bin just for those, I just don't know, I just can't part with this, because I know that's the whole thing, is just get it down to one and make the container the bad guy. But at the end of the day, we have to live with ourselves and we're the bad guys. I'm not gonna blame a box. I'm going to blame myself. So if you have the room and the space in your house, it's okay to keep a few more things than a minimalist might recommend. I wish you the very best in your decision making, and as always, I cannot wait to visit with you in the next one. Bye.